Angela Rayner. The tax row has finally come to an end, as has her career. Her reign as Deputy Prime Minister and Housing Secretary is over, triggering a frantic day of action in Westminster, which almost overshadowed the Reform UK conference. Obviously, nobody will forget this.
I'm an insomniac. I'm an insomniac.
But before we get stuck in, let's take you back to how this all began nearly 2 weeks ago, when both the Mail and the Sun on Sunday broke the story that Rayner, whilst cracking down on second home owners, had bought her second place but her third home for £800,000, a three-bedroom seaside flat in Brighton. According to Rayner, she was advised that she would only need to pay the standard rate of tax on the purchase and denied any wrongdoing. But just days later, the Telegraph broke the news, claiming that she had, in fact, guess what? She dodged £40,000 in stamp duty. The Tories then wrote to the PM's ethics advisor, asking him to investigate Rayner's tax affairs, but she survived the weekend. Now, Angela would be the first to call out wrongdoing and demand resignations.
Now it emerged, actually, that that's not true and that there was a HMRC investigation and that he's had to pay penalties for that. I think that makes his position untenable.
Yes, I'm sure it does. And her historic tweets shows that she's called for other people to resign for much less. Then, just half an hour before the first PMQs after summer recess, under fire, Angela Rayner finally admitted that she had not paid enough tax on her second home, referring herself to the ethics watchdog. Oh, and the same Beth Rigby that hounded previous Conservative leaders to quit at every given opportunity gave Angela an easy ride.
I have alerted and referred myself to the independent advisor on the ministerial code to ensure that they can look transparently at what's happened, and also contacted HMRC to say that there is additional tax owing on this and that I'm prepared to pay that and fully comply with the HMRC as well.
The Cabinet rallied around Angela.
I have full confidence in Angela Rayner. She's a good friend and a colleague. That was an error. That was a mistake. She is working hard now to rectify that.
She went on her own judgment and got independent expert tax advice. She's made a mistake, sure, but she's made an honest mistake.
I can be clear. I am very proud to sit alongside a Deputy Prime Minister who is building 1.5 million homes, who is bringing the biggest upgrade to workers' rights in a generation, and who's come from a working-class background to be Deputy Prime Minister of this country.
Yes, some more than others.
They have a go at her because she's so bloody good at her job.
Yes, that's Lucy Powell, and by the way, she lost her job today as well. Sir Keir repeatedly refused to say if he would sack Rayner if the Standards Advisor concluded she broke the ministerial code. And meanwhile, Rayner's property was targeted with graffiti, branding her as a tax evader. Then this morning, the investigation found that she had breached the ministerial code because she had failed to meet the highest possible standards of proper conduct. Ms Rayner resigned from all her positions, including Housing Secretary and Deputy Labour Leader. Then came the reshuffle. Brace yourselves, because David Lammy is our new Deputy Prime Minister and Justice Minister. Yvette Cooper has been taken out of the Home Office and will replace Lammy. And Shabana Mahmood is the new Home Secretary. Elsewhere, Steve Reid, Pat McFadden, Peter Khan and Liz Kendall were given new posts. Ed Miliband, Bridget Phillipson and Wes Streeting stay where they are.
As a journalist, I always need to remember more in less time. And you know what I really hate? Taking notes. It wastes loads of time and you forget stuff. And that's where Plord comes in. This is the Plord Note, a sleek, pro-level AI note-taker that records and creates notes for you. Whether you're listening to a long podcast, stuck in a meeting, or on an important call, Plord captures everything at the tap of a button. Then it gives you a smart, structured summary with all of the key takeaways. It even recognises different speakers by their voice, and you can choose from bullet points, to-do lists, or even mind maps. Your data's safe too, with end-to-end encryption and global privacy compliance. And with Plord's built-in AI, you can search everything you've ever recorded just by asking a question. It's slim, magnetic, under 30 grams, lasts up to 60 days on standby, and over 1 million people are already using it. Hit the link in the description and use code GB10 for £10 off your Plord order. Save hours of time and never miss a detail again. Link in the description below.
Let's get the thoughts of my panel on this car crash of a day for Labour. But first, let's take our first question.
Yeah, so it's a bit of a difficult question, this one. The memes on Angela Rayner are shocking at the moment, and the comments are brutal. It's one rule for them, one rule for us. How are we supposed to know, as the British public, how do we trust, how are we supposed to be convinced that anyone who comes up next in this post can be trusted, is going to make sense, and do what's right for us?
Oh, sorry. Who wants to answer that? Barry Gardner.
I think the confidence that you should have in the next person doing the right thing is because of what's happened to Angela today. She's gone because she didn't. And a week ago on this programme, when we were talking about this, I said, look, flipping is legal, tax avoidance is legal, but it is frowned on by the Inland Revenue because it's an exploitation of a loophole. And politicians, exactly as Nana said from what the ethics advisor had said, is that we are held to the highest possible standards through the ministerial code. And that's absolutely right, because we're setting the rules for everybody else. And yeah, it may be legal to do what she did, but it was not ethical, and that's why she had to go. So I think the fact is that the Nolan principles of public life are still being followed, and where they're not, the consequences are enormous, as we've seen today with Angela. I just want to say, look, Angela's been a friend of mine for 10 years. And I have huge respect for what she's achieved in her life. And I think anybody who looks at her story, leaving education at 16, bringing up a disabled child, and achieving the political heights that she is an incredibly remarkable woman. But she got this wrong. She was advised to take further advice on her tax affairs. She didn't do that. She's paid the price for it.
All right, Adam Brooks.
I'm sick of MPs preaching to us and virtual signalling about, you know, how we should behave when they act so badly themselves. I'm sick and tired of people making excuses for Angela Rayner because she's a woman or because she's working class. There is no excuse for preaching one thing and then acting another way, you know, especially after hounding other MPs out of jobs and all that on social media as well. This just highlights why the Uni Party is dying. The public has no trust now in the Conservatives or Labour, and reform are the only option, really, let's be real. So people, even if they're not massive Farage fans, they want something different. They want the whole political system in the UK to be reformed and to be changed. We are being laughed at around the world, and we are suffering both economically and socially. Crime is through the roof, economy is tanking. Something has to change, and this is just such bad optics. Why didn't he sack her?
Yeah, OK, well, Chloe Dobbs, should he have sacked her?
I think that Keir Starmer was in a difficult position in terms of sacking because her position as deputy leader, as opposed to deputy prime minister, is one where she is elected by the party members. But we know what it's like when someone resigns. They have basically been pushed and been turfed out, but they say that they've resigned. And it was just a question of when as opposed to if. And this story has been rumbling on for a good couple of weeks now. She has been across so many front pages, and they probably should have done it sooner. I mean, when we just found out that she had bought this new 800k pad, before there was even any question about the tax affairs, everyone looked at that and thought, she's finished. There's no way that the Deputy Prime Minister and the person in charge of the department that is currently cracking down on evil second homeowners by making them pay double council tax and whatnot, the hypocrisy of it just then, before any tax issues, was crazy. She should have gone then.
Alexander Stafford.
I think exactly right. It's the hypocrisy. It's always the hypocrisy. It's not necessarily the sort of the crime or what went wrong, it's the hypocrisy. And then, slightly challenging what Barry said, she didn't stand down and resign when she realised she made a mistake. She resigned because she was found out. And even when she was found out, she lasted another week trying to hang on. And that, to me, is unforgivable. She was deliberately, I think, trying to manipulate the situation to hold on to a job to the very, very last minute. If she had any decency, first of all, she wouldn't do this. And even if it was maybe technically legal, she wouldn't have done this. It screams such bad optics and so disrespectful for the British people. But secondly, once they realised this was wrong, she should have had the decency to say, I'm going to stand down, this is not tenable. And the fact, on Wednesday, we had Keir Starmer, we had Wes Streeting, backing it to the hilt, speaks to me of a rotten core of this Labour Party who are willing to stand up for their mates, regardless of the evidence, and not look after the British public.
Well, yeah. Advisor did say that, from what he can see, she did everything in good faith, and that she didn't do this deliberately and had simply not taken the further step to get better advice.
But she deliberately tried to save £40,000.
Well, yeah, but you see,
on a second home.
The thing is, most people would try and do something to get through that. But the bottom line is, what she did had to be almost like a calculated kind of understanding that if this was no longer her first house, if she needed to make sure that the new one was her first home, so she did some mental gymnastics to make sure that that was the case. And had she taken further advice, she would have known that something in trust, unless that person is 18, then unfortunately you are still seen as the owner.
Look, thank you for saying that, because I think it's right that the ethics advisor did say that she had acted with integrity. And it was complicated. But I wanted to pick up on something that Adam said, and which I very much agree with, and that's about the way in which politicians can't have it both ways. We can't be telling people, well, you've got to do this, and then not do it ourselves. And that's why I think it's really important that Nigel Farage, who we now find said that he had bought a house in his constituency when he became the MP there, and actually put it in his wife's name to avoid having to pay the right rate on it. And also the fact that he has done another tax avoidance measure, which is that I think it's 400,000 that he's received from GB News. He runs through a company. He doesn't do that personally, because that saves him, 15% in tax instead of paying the 40 or 45% rate. He only has to pay the 25%.
But that's pretty bog standard. Someone self-employed
yes,
has
but
limited...
the bottom line is... Oh, no, but
he's not Deputy Prime Minister.
The point is... The point is it's tax avoidance, and that's the issue.
I wouldn't say that.
Sorry, the point with this is that she took the moral high ground, didn't she? She's the housing secretary, and she's telling us all, oh, you've got to pay more for your second home, oh, you've got to pay more council tax, and she's used every single scheme she can possibly use to try and avoid the taxes. So
yes, but Nigel Farage, and it's this issue that Alex and Adam both talked about, of hypocrisy. You condemn Angela Rayner for doing what was legal but was tax avoidance and unethical, even though she apparently didn't realise that she was doing it. And yet you structure your affairs such that your house is in your wife's name, your income is in your company's name, and those two are tax avoidance.
You could say that somebody who decides to expense, for example, their travel to work if they are self-employed is avoiding tax because that means they are paying less tax than they would do otherwise. But we can all use our common sense when we're talking about tax avoidance. And no, there are completely acceptable things to do to minimise...
The Inland Revenue says there are three things.
That's enough. Okay. Right, we'll come back to that in a minute. My brilliant panel, Barry Gardner, Chloe Dobbs, also Alexander Stafford and Adam Brooks.